And now this. You know, it really is hard to believe what's going on our college campuses these days. Our next guest tried to speak at a college in California. Her speech was disrupted and blocked by violent left-wing protesters. Heather McDonald is with us this morning. She's with the Manhattan Institute, and she was the lady who tried to speak. She's the author of the book, The War on Cops. Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Great to have you back.
My
you
pleasure.
are welcome on Varney and Company. Is
I
that
can
clear?
speak. I'm waiting for the cameramen to walk off campus in protest, but
No,
you're all here.
you're not
It's
gonna
an
do that.
unusual experience.
Tell me what you were going to say in California, but you were blocked from saying it.
I was going to say that there is no epidemic of racially biased police shootings. The Black Lives Matter narrative is completely false, and there are thousands of law-abiding residents of minority communities who are desperate for more police protection and who support the police 100%.
This was at Claremont McKenna College in Southern California?
Which is outside of Los Angeles.
So you got into the room, you were ready to speak. What happened?
No, I barely got into the room. 300 people, students from Claremont and neighboring colleges, blocked access to the hall so students couldn't get in. I had to enter through a secret entrance and spoke to an empty hall. They live streamed it, but as I was speaking, students were pounding on the glass windows, shouting, and the police shut it down eventually because they were so worried about the potential for violence.
Were there any arrests?
Of course not.
No arrests?
No. Today, the police are completely emasculated, and of course on college campuses, we have now a consumerist ethos, and nobody wants to upset the little darlings who are there paying $60,000 a year in tuition. And so there's a high bar before you arrest anybody. Of course, if you're falsely accused of campus rape, that's a different matter. But for everything else, blocking, it's one thing to silence me. And again, I was able to deliver my speech live streamed, but these campus thugs prevented their fellow students from engaging with an unorthodox viewpoint.
I just get the impression that things are getting worse. That the whole idea of free speech on a college campus is dead and gone and buried if you have an opinion that is disliked by the left.
It is worse. You're absolutely right. This grows out of a very specific ideology of victimhood. The colleges today are basically in the business of creating angry victims with chips on their shoulder, whether it's females, minorities, gender, trans people. And as a result of that victim ideology, they've been taught to believe that speech is violence against them.
Taught to believe. Are you blaming the faculty for part of this problem?
Absolutely. This is a pure academic ideology that starts in K through 12, but it revs up steam. And yes, there's no question that you read these student editorials after I was, after the mob had prevented my interaction with students, and they were justifying the shutting down of the speech and basically just parroted the academic ideology of implicit bias and systemic racism.
What are we going to do about this? I mean, I think it's just terrible, quite frankly, but I don't know what to do.
It's a betrayal of our highest ideals, not only the ideals of civic education and constitutionalism, but humanistic education. These kids are being prevented from studying the greatest works of mankind. Parents, unfortunately, are so desperate to credentialize their children. They don't care if a Harvard education is vapid, as long as it gives them the credential. Unless we have parents that are willing to homeschool their kids in college, or there's been proposals to create internet colleges, but everybody wants the status. These baby boomer parents who were on ashrams in the 60s and said they don't care about material wealth. They are desperate for their kids to get a BA and an MBA in Harvard so they can go to Goldman Sachs and make a lot of money.
You know, it's my generation's fault. I'm a baby boomer.
It is. I'm sort of a baby boomer, too. I know.
It's our fault. We staff these universities.
That's right.
These people are staffers in universities now. They were students in the 1960s.
Yep.
They grew up in that ethos, and they're continuing it now.
It's a revolt against bourgeois culture, law and order, possession, personal responsibility, and the real problem is these colleges are graduating perpetual victims, and they are going to be a scourge on American society.
Heather, well, that's your last word.
It is.
Heather McDonald, you are welcome to come onto this program anytime you like. We'll operate free speech for you.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back.